Biden's policies hurt migrants and communities at the same time. He didn't set up proper safety nets and prevent local impacts, not the migrants' fault. Well, I look at it as you're either going to have a reasonable checks and balances on immigration or you're not. And we do have a significant influx of illegal immigration in the United States, and it is directly affecting communities. Part of the reason why a lot of people have also looked at immigration as an issue to side with the conservative, or just say the GOP on, is because of articles like this one on MSNBC. The guilt of Laken Riley's killer was never in doubt. For all the political controversy surrounding Jose Ibarra, the case against him was always a simple one. Yeah, it was. His DNA was found under her fingernails. She struggled with him for over 15 minutes. I believe he had attempted to rape her. She did the best to fight him off, and he eventually killed her. Jose Antonio Ibarra was convicted on multiple counts of murder Wednesday in the February killing of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. Ibarra was immediately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, along with other consecutive sentences for lesser crimes, including aggravated assault with intent to rape and peeping Tom. Riley's murder became a political rallying cry at this summer's RNC because Ibarra entered the country illegally in 2022. But for all the political controversy, the outcome of this trial was never in doubt. The verdict was found to be guilty. The sentence was going to be life without parole. Again, I don't know what type of a message you think you're trying to convey here, but this whole idea of we should have sympathy for the killer, it's already a line of controversy when a person is in this country illegally. It's another thing entirely when you are trying to paint this picture of, well, this poor guy couldn't catch a break. How do you think Laken Riley and her family feels? Now, I always look at, and I'm going to continue reading, but I always look at these types of stories in a light. The light that it's always looked at is from a very convenient one, from people that write for places like MSNBC. For the defense, this was a hopeless case. The defense did the best it could with bad facts. It almost surely knew it was going to lose. That's probably why it requested a bench judge only trial instead of a jury trial. Actually, no, that's not true. You have a much better chance of convincing one juror to not convict than to have a judge convict. Statistics bear this out in a very big way. So that was bad advice on the attorney's part. Again, I'm only looking at this from an objective perspective if we're going by the letter of the law. But you always want a jury trial. You don't want a bench trial. Generally, defense attorneys prefer jury trials, of course. One reason is math, the jury, blah, 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 same thing. Defense attorneys might alternatively push for a bench trial because the evidence against the defendant is both overwhelming and horrific. That's likely what happened here. The defense had no chance with a jury. Again, I don't really understand why they're framing this in a way as if to suggest that maybe something could have been done because this poor immigrant couldn't be supported, but apparently had no chance with the judge either, since he was convicted anyway. So the bench trial was a good call by the defense. Saving the judge from a pointless jury trial might have been Ibarra's best chance at life without the possibility of parole. While you probably won't see the written in any rules or law books, in my experience as defense attorney, judges and prosecutors appreciate defendants who don't waste the court's time. Sometimes a bench trial can help avoid the trial tax. The harsher sentencing when a defendant opts for a 3-week jury trial instead of a 4-day judge-only trial. I guess that's one way of looking at it. If you're trying to potentially soften the blow in terms of the sentence. Of course, in Ibarra's case, the judge cut him no breaks. Jury or no jury, in fairness, Athens Clarke County Superior Court Judge Patrick Hager, who presided over the trial, didn't have that much to decide. Normally, judges have a lot of sentencing options. Criminal statutes often provide for a mandatory minimum of a statutory maximum sentence, leaving a lot in between. For example, when FTX co-founder Sam Bankman-Fried was convicted of masterminding a massive fraud last November, federal prosecutors asked the judge to sentence SBF to 100 years in prison, because he was going to live for about another 112. His defense argues for 6.5 years. Oh, that's quite a gap. It's often a challenge for a judge to determine what is appropriate sentence while considering the minimum sentences, maximum sentences, and sentencing guidelines. Not in this case. Well, look, these very cut and dry cases are a testament to what part of the problem is when it comes to this issue. Laken Riley, unfortunately, has become political cannon fodder, just like Jose Ibarra has become political cannon fodder. The way I look at it is simply this. We have a lot more crime that goes unreported or underreported, and violence against women is a very common problem in our culture. And so because of that, I've always taken the attitude of, well, if it was my mother, my sister, my girlfriend, my wife, whatever, how would I feel and where would I stand? I'm pretty ruthless when it comes to criminal justice reform. I believe that we are, first, you got to take the for-profit component out of criminal justice. That's the biggest problem that we have. The fact that that even exists is insane. When it comes to the issue with crime and punishment, I am very conservative. I do believe in the death penalty, but at the same time, I also understand that from a financial standpoint, life without parole is an infinitely less expensive endeavor. The other problem you have with the death penalty is that you get people sitting on death row for 30 years. The amount of money that costs it's insane. And so while I think it's always best to leave it up to the family to decide, especially with cases that are no doubters, the case of Laken Riley and Jose Ibarra, it's a no doubter. And as Jen is pointing out, capital punishment is inherently racist. Well, look, capital punishment is wrong 4% of the time. And for most people, that's just simply unacceptable, which is why there has been a movement towards abolishing the death penalty. It was successfully done at the state level in a number of places, most notably, obviously, in California. But ultimately, from where I stand, I've always believed that it is up to the family to decide.